What is going on, everybody? We are back with another list from 2024, and this is the one I'm sure a lot of you are excited for because it seems like a lot of the people who are subscribed to me enjoy when I trash on movies. And I've already done full reviews of every single one of the movies on this list, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but these are by and large the worst movies that I watched in 2024. There are 23 movies on this list. I'm going to go from the least grading to the absolutely most despicable of the bunch. And these are the movies that I would recommend that you avoid at all costs. These are all movies, for the most part, that I feel like I completely and totally wasted my time on. And we're going to jump into them now because there's a lot of them. Coming in at number 23 is Time Cut. How many of these time travel slasher movies are we going to get? This was equally as underwhelming as the film Totally Killer, with some pretty mediocre performances. I felt like they did a little bit better of a job with characterization. The kills weren't all that great. The movie was way too long. I was uninterested after about 30 minutes, and I just hope that this trend is done because it's becoming very grating at this point. Happy Death Day did it really well, and that should have been the end of it for a while. Coming in at number 22 is Joker Folie à Deux. This movie was terrible. I didn't think that I could dislike the movie more than the first one, and I absolutely did. Talk about wasted performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, who I feel like give it 110%. This movie is ridiculously dumb. It's poorly paced. The musical numbers feel completely and totally out of place. The movie becomes a really uninteresting courtroom drama. The third act punch feels like it contradicts everything that Todd Phillips was trying to say with the first movie. I just feel like a mess is the best way to describe this. I'll probably never watch it again. Coming in at number 21 is the film Baghead. This movie was just such a run-of-the-mill, uninteresting version of the film Talk to Me, where you have a creature with a bag over their head that you can summon people who are dead. It just truly went in a direction that I felt like was uninteresting and bland. The performances weren't all that good. Did have slightly decent atmosphere, but it's definitely not worth watching. Coming in at number 20 is The Front Room. This is directed by Robert Eggers brothers, with a really great performance from Brandy and not much else. This movie is cringy, over the top. They try to push it in really ridiculous, absurdist comedy fashion in moments, and it does not work at all. It's just really bafflingly bad, and I would not recommend anyone waste their time watching it. Coming in at number 19 is the film Arcadian, the Nick Cage Quiet Place ripoff. I felt like the characters were really underutilized. The movie felt like it was over at about the hour mark, and then it just kept going. I thought the creature design was really cheap. A lot of people seemed to enjoy it. I did not think that it looked all that great. Really run-of-the-mill and predictable. Just watch A Quiet Place instead. Coming in at number 18 is Night Swim, a movie that I actually probably would recommend that you watch because of how bafflingly bad it is. This got very close to so bad it's good territory, with some one-liners that had me laughing so hard I almost cried. Horrendous performances. It goes in the dumbest direction that you could ever possibly imagine, and it's enjoyable for that very reason, but it is still one of the worst movies I watched all year. Coming in at number 17 is Afraid. This is the movie about the AI that is tormenting the family that owns it after it is brought into their house. This movie is just as dumb as you would have assumed that it was. It was a movie that I saw the trailer for at the theater and was like, I'm not going to watch that. And then I had some people say, Nate, we really want you to watch that. So I did, and I wish I wouldn't have because I knew it was going to be bad, and it was. Coming in at number 16 is It's What's Inside, a Netflix original movie that seemed like a lot of people really liked it, and I found it to be an incoherent mess where you couldn't discern which character was which, and not even intentionally. It didn't feel like the identities were purposely being held from you. In specific moments, there was a reason to keep it from you, but I feel like even when they were trying to remind you who was who, it became incredibly confusing. I felt like it was underwhelming. The humor was half-baked. It was just a really bad experience that I don't ever want to have again. Coming in at number 15 is Y2K, directed by Kyle Mooney. My review for this just came out relatively recently. Really cool practical effects and nothing else. The humor was terrible. The characters were underwritten. Just kind of a miserable slog to get through. This is one of those stains in A24's production catalog that I just wish there would have been a little bit more thought into it, because it's a really cool concept. It felt like it was so much more interested in paying homage to the time period than actually being an interesting script. Coming in at number 14 is The Watchers from Ishana Night Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. This movie was just bad. I mean, there's no real way around it. I felt like it was poorly written. The performances weren't great. I did like the way that it was shot. It went into kind of a fantastical realism direction in the third act, but it didn't work for me personally. Kind of the goofiest plot twist you could ever imagine, and yeah, this was just terrible. Coming in at number 13 is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 2. Why did I ever watch this movie? I don't know, because I despise the first one so much. It was an improvement. The character designs were better. I feel like the pacing was a little bit better, but at the end, when the character started going on a killing spree and Tigger was essentially throwing out Freddy Krueger one-liners, and it just felt like a ripoff of a ton of other movies that already existed. It just became a complete and utter waste of time, a movie I would never tell anyone to waste their time with. Coming in at number 12 is the film Tarot, a movie with really cool character designs. I really liked the way the creatures looked, and then that was it. The characters were horribly written, the pacing was really terrible, the story was really stupid. It's just one of those throwaway horror movies that there was a lot of time and attention to detail in the presentation of these creatures and not much else. Coming in at number 11 is the film Scream, a movie where we cast a bunch of horror icons to waste their time. This movie was almost 2 hours long for no reason whatsoever. Some of the worst performances I have seen in a movie all year long, like truly just absolutely horrible. The practical effects were amazing because they were done by Damien Leone from the Terrifier series, but that was about it. There was really nothing else to this movie. I'm really bummed that I wasted my time with it, and I cannot believe they're actually going to try to make a sequel. Coming in at number 10 is the film Imaginary, another Blumhouse mess, a movie that I don't know why I went to the theater and watched, and it just felt like it kept going on and on and on, and it was never going to end. It wasn't interesting. It was corny. The horror was really poorly done. Cheap jump scares as per Blumhouse as usual. I feel like they make at least 3 to 4 of these a year. Coming in at number 9 is The Strangers Chapter 1. Let's just end it here. You can't do anything else with The Strangers to make it interesting. The first movie worked really well. Pray at Night was a fun little 80s rendition on that. Don't do anything else with this. This is just terrible. It's a rehash of the first movie, but done in a way worse way. The performances are awful. It's not suspenseful. It's not horrific. It just sort of forgets what makes the original so incredibly effective. At number 8, we have the movie Scrambled, a comedy drama with one of the worst lead performances I've seen all year. One of the most insufferable characters I've ever seen in a movie. Did not care what was happening to her. I just found her to be incredibly grating and irritating. The entire supporting cast was really bad. I forgot half this movie like right after it was over. It was so miserable. I was just counting the minutes until it ended. Going in at number 7 is Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, a bafflingly bad movie that was clearly made by an elderly man on drugs. This movie is just an 80-year-old's worldview spewed at you for 2+ hours in a way that is so unintelligible and moronic. I don't know how anyone is enjoying this. You have to be high to enjoy this movie, and I'm not even sure if you could 100% enjoy it in that way either. Some amazing actors giving really hokey bad performances. So the movie looks simultaneously like the most expensive and cheap thing that I've ever watched in my life. The character motivations are just nonsensical. The plot, just when you think you know where it's going, it completely kind of pulls the rug out from under you and goes in the most confusing direction imaginable. Would not recommend to anyone. Coming in at number 6 is The Feeling That Time for Doing Something Has Passed. This movie's title was as long as the movie felt. This was one of the most miserable experiences I've had watching a movie all year long. It just felt like nothing happened the entire movie. The character did not develop. She did not learn anything new. It was meaningless, mundane conversation that led to nowhere. I'm all for art house slice of life movies. Those are some of my favorites, but this was neither funny nor interesting, just legitimately miserable. And there are a few movies, like some of the movies on this list, they're bad, but I made it through it. This, it took everything in me to finish finish it. Coming in at number 5 is Twisters, a movie that I am still genuinely convinced was written by artificial intelligence. This was like, take all the plot beats from the original Twister and put it in this movie in a way that's far less interesting or engaging. Some of hands down the worst performances I have seen in a movie all year long. It's bafflingly stupid. The motivations of the characters are awful. I was rolling my eyes through the entire runtime of this movie. I do not see what anyone sees in this. It's not endearing. It's not charming. It's not entertaining. I feel like the only love that someone could have for this movie is their immense attachment to the original, or if they really like Glenn Powell, which I really like Glenn Powell, and he was terrible in this movie. It was literally just like he was screaming for 2 hours. I don't see what anyone likes about this. Coming in at number 4 is Killer Body Count, a Tubi original movie directed by the person who directed the Slumber Party Massacre remake, which I really enjoyed. This movie was not like that at all. Horrible performances, terrible pacing. It wasn't really a horror movie. It felt like it didn't hit any of the beats of a horror film. It wasn't scary. The plot reveal was incredibly predictable. Just kind of a miserable slog to get through, unfortunately. Coming in at number 3 is Madam Web. Yes, this is going to be on a lot of people's lists. It's terrible. It's truly baffling that Sony keeps putting these movies out there. No one cares. No one wants these. They're not well done. They're not well made. The performances are really bad. Even Dakota Johnson, who I absolutely love and think is an incredible actress, was really phoning it in this movie in about the worst way imaginable. I hated every second of this. Even though there were some moments that I did laugh at the ineptitude, it's just really not worth your time to watch. Coming in at number 2 is Bagman, which, if you noticed, I had a movie on this list earlier called A Baghead. Just a lot of movies about bags this year. This movie had one of the coolest posters I've ever seen, and then was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Terrible performances. It's not shot well. It isn't scary. It has every single trope that you can imagine from every single horror movie made in the past 25 years. It's predictable. It's bland. It's uninteresting. The characters make the dumbest decisions imaginable. This is a movie that I wish I could purge from my mind forever. But number 1, and this is the worst experience I have had watching a movie all year long, is the horror film Founders Day. I went to an early screening of this movie, and the people in front of me threw a drink on one another, and it was the most entertaining and engaging part of the entire experience. This movie was 2 hours long, and it was the most insufferable writing, character development, plot points, just everything about it was miserable. There was no thought in any of this. It was the most cliche, run-of-the-mill garbage you could ever imagine. And even in the third act, some of the plot decisions just ridiculously stupid. I hated everything about this movie. I would say avoid it at all costs. Just really a miserable nightmare to get through. So what are some of the worst films of 2024? In your opinion, let me know in the comments. These are just some of the ones that I thought were absolutely terrible, and I'm curious to hear what yours are. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.